We've got our political editor Sbu Ngalwa in the studio as we unpack the breaking news that Bandile Masuku, MEC for Health in Gauteng, has been dismissed. Good to have you with us, Sbu.
Thank you.
So what do you make of this? I mean, we've just heard Premier Makhura saying he has dismissed Masuku. But on the back of that, we also hear him saying he's dismissing him only on the basis of the fact that he was found to not have fulfilled his duties according to the PFMA and the Constitution. But that the SIU is still going to go ahead and do an investigation as far as corruption and collusion is concerned. And if that clears Masuku, then Masuku will be brought back into the fold. Is this worth a dismissal, or should he just have kept him on special leave?
The point here, Tammy, is that Makhura should actually explain what exactly he meant by that, because the reality is the SIU has already made a finding on the issue of Masuku, Dr. Bandile Masuku's compliance to the PFMA. That finding has been made already, so it doesn't change. What is outstanding is a determination on the issue of whether Bandile Masuku was involved in collusion or corrupt practices in relation to PPE deals. So based on the finding that he has in front of him, he has told us that he has dismissed the MEC. So it makes no sense then why he would then reinstate the MEC should it be found that he was not involved in corruption. And the reason why I say that is that the initial finding does not change. It's already there. He has received it. It makes no sense to me. In fact, it makes no sense to anyone why that finding should change should he be found to have been committed, colluded or have been involved in corruption.
Do you say that because not doing your work according to the Constitution and the PFMA basically translates to incompetence?
And dereliction of duty, exactly. So if an MEC is appointed to a position, that person as a political head of that department is expected to, at the very least, adhere to the prescripts of the law. And the PFMA is that guiding document in terms of how public institutions and public finances are to be managed. So if there is an adverse finding in that regard, it is damning on the MEC.
Before we went back to the Premier, we were talking about whether or not he should have actually said that MEC was dismissed. And you were making the point that in his view, by the way that he's treating this, it looks like he's saying that this is not weighty enough an issue which would warrant dismissal from his point of view as the Premier, but based on the SIU report that this does warrant dismissal. But let me ask you this, what impact then does this have on MEC Masuku's political career, the fact that he has been dismissed on grounds of non-performance?
Obviously it's damning on Bandile Masuku and also on his reputation as well, because history will always record that he is the MEC for Health who was fired for failure to adhere or to implement the prescripts of the the PFMA. So that's why then it becomes, I'm sure if I were Bandile Masuku, I would actually be offended by what the Premier is to say. It's either you fired him or not. It's either the Premier has found that the grounds that were given in the SIU interim report are good enough for him to fire. Don't leave him hanging as though now there's another ruling to be made. Because if the current finding stands, then let that be the case. But here is the issue here, Tammy, for the Gauteng. Gauteng has a bigger problem, which relates to the ANC's fragile electoral majority. And that is why you see the ANC sometimes not sure of how to act. Because the question that Makhura was asked, whether a family member of his is getting contracts from government, is a crucial one. Because the reality is that in this particular case, it may not be the case as he defended himself, that we had him defend himself. But in many of those cases, there is that toxic relationship between where family members of politicians are getting contracts and government contracts from the departments that they work for. So that's why then it looks like Makhura is somewhat unsure of what to do and how to handle this.
But that really is an issue, Sbu, that needs to be clarified even deeper and further. There's family and there's friends, and there is a culture of having done that over the decades. And so that really, I think, goes even beyond Gauteng, but is a nationwide issue.